everyone, welcome back to Cars and Zebras. Today I have another featured drag race, so I sure hope that you enjoy it. If you do find it entertaining, make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel because I do post these videos regularly, and also make sure to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. I do appreciate you watching, and with that said, let's check out our featured drag race. This is a 1970 Chevrolet Camaro Z28. And how good looking is this car? I mean, this thing is hot. Oh, how hot you ask? It is hotter than Margot Robbie, April O'Neil, and Betty White combined. Okay, it's probably not hotter than Betty White, but this is a fantastic looking car. And I think we can all admit that when there's a discussion about the best looking Camaros, the 1970 Chevrolet Camaro Z28, specifically with the RS package, is always in the discussion. But what do you guys think? What year of the Camaro do you think is the best looking? Make sure you leave a comment. I want to see you guys duke this one out. As I had mentioned, the Z28 features the RS package, and we know that because it has the front split bumper, which is just absolutely tasty. Gives me the tingles every time I see it. 1970 was a big year for the Chevrolet Camaro. It marks the beginning of the second generation, which was a complete departure from the first generation, especially when you're talking about the Z28. Of course, the previous 1969 Z28 was just an absolute little monster with that nasty 302 with 290 horsepower, but I think we all know it had a lot more horsepower than that. But it wasn't very street friendly with that radical cam. So this year, Chevrolet wanted to make it a little bit more driver friendly. And what they came up with was an absolute gem. And of course, I'm referring to the LT1 350 V8. We're talking an aluminum intake, solid lifters, 11-to-1 compression, a forged crank, and a 780 CFM Holley 4-barrel carburetor, all together putting out 360 horsepower at 5,600 RPM and 380 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM. Funny enough, the LT1 in the Corvette that year was rated 10 more horsepower, totaling 370, but that was likely because the Corvette had a freer flowing exhaust and an open air cleaner. But you didn't only get a great engine with the Z28, there were also a lot of other goodies. You got the special performance suspension, which was very highly regarded by car critics back in the day, and it also had a standard rear spoiler. I mean, it's pretty subtle, but it's there. And then for better or for worse, the air induction hood was dropped for 1970. And I know I keep referring to this as a 1970 Camaro, but some people call it a 1970 and a half because it didn't debut until February 26th of 1970. But enough about that, let's talk transmissions. Of course, the 4-speed was still available and it was very popular, but for the first time ever, you could get an automatic transmission in a Z28 Camaro, and that's exactly what this car has. It's a 3-speed automatic, of course being the tried and true TH400. And just look at the size of that shifter, man. That thing is huge. And of course, being a new generation of the Camaro, the interior was changed completely. And it's a little bit Spartan, but you know what? It works, and it's very tastefully done. The standard rear gear on a Z28 in 1970 that shredded those tires was a 373. Posi, of course, was mandatory with this package, but you could upgrade to a 410 gear, and this car has that. Curb weight was 3,640 pounds, but this car weighed in at 3,712 pounds. In 1970, the V8 Sport Coupe Camaro started at $2,839, but that Z28 package was going to cost you another $572.95, so combined, that would price a Z28 at $3,412. And in 1970, that was a lot of car for the money. And then if we adjust for inflation, it would be just over $22,000 today. Production for the 1970 Camaro was actually pretty darn good, especially when you consider the late debut. They sold about 125,000 cars, with 8,733 of those being Z28s. Original testing from Car and Driver showed a 0 to 60 of 5.8 seconds and a quarter mile of 14.2 seconds at 100.3 miles per hour. This car also got between 13 and 14 miles per gallon, so not too shabby. It's not bad for a muscle car back in the day. The prices now for a 1970 Z28 are a little bit varied. You could find a nice tribute car for $30,000 to $35,000. But if you want a real Z28, especially one that comes with that absolutely delicious RS package, you're looking at least $40,000 to $50,000, and it might be a little bit more yet. But enough about the Z28. Let's check out its opponent. This is a 1972 Buick GS455, but it's not just any GS455. This one features the Stage 1 package. And how gorgeous is this car? I love the sharper front end on the 1972 models. It kind of reminds me of like a Darth Vader car.
Luke, come to the Buick side.
But it really is a great looking car, and arguably, I might say that 1972 is my personal favorite, but let me know what you guys think. Before we get into the power ratings for this car, you guys, there's a couple things we have to talk about because I think the numbers will surprise you. Remember, in 1971, auto manufacturers began preparing for the use of unleaded gas, and therefore compression ratios dropped quite a bit, so you lose a little power. But also in 1972, across the board with all auto manufacturers, horsepower was being reported in net ratings instead of the previous gross ratings. So now that horsepower was determined with the air cleaner, the accessories, and the exhaust all in place. So the numbers are going to sound a little bit lower than they were in previous years. So in 1972, the GS455 Stage 1 came in at 270 horsepower at 4,400 RPM and 390 pound-feet of torque at 3,000 RPM. Okay, yep, let's settle down. Remember, it's 1972, unleaded gas is mandated. The compression ratio on this car was only 8.5 to 1 compared to 1970 when it was 10 to 1. So overall, not terrible numbers. I mean, not great, but they're not bad. It's still a torque monster, you know, it's a Buick. But we'll see what that translates into on the drag strip, but before we get there, let's talk transmissions. The 4-speed manual is still available. They didn't sell that many, but you could get it. Funny enough, if you got the manual, you could not get the full-length center console. If you wanted that center console, you could only get it with the automatic, and this car has it. That being the TH400, just like our Camaro. But there is a very subtle difference in the TH400 in the Stage 1 cars. That being, it used 6 clutch plates, unlike the base 455 TH400 that only had 5 clutch plates. Standard rear gearing came in at a 342, and posi was mandated, just like in the Z28. However, this car is featuring 355 gears. Curb weight for the 72 GS455 Stage 1 was 3,743 pounds. However, this car is coming in at a chunky 4,014 pounds. Base price of the GS was $3,392. If you wanted the Stage 1, that's another $335. And then if you wanted the TH400 automatic, that was another $250. So at its cheapest, this car would have came in at $3,977, and that was quite a bit of money back then. Adjusting for inflation, that would be about $24,500 today. Sales for the GS were really starting to fall by 1972, and total production for all GS cars was only 8,575. Stage 1 cars accounted for only 728 of those, with 627 being automatics and 101 being the 4-speed manual. But if you want to see some rarity, you got to look towards the Stage 1 convertible in 1972 because they only made 81 of those total. Original testing of this car showed a quarter mile in 14.61 seconds at 94 miles per hour. It got between 8 and 9 miles per gallon, and prices today for these cars are all over the place. If you're lucky, you might find a true 1972 Stage 1 for around $45,000 to $50,000, but some well-documented numbers-matching cars are going for over $70,000 now. That's a lot of money. But anyway, that's enough info on these cars. Let's see how they do on the drag strip.
Beautiful man. He is also from Manitoba, Wisconsin.
Stage 1.
Stage 1, 1972, I think it was 270 net horsepower. speaking of Buick, there's one on the left lane is a 72 GS455. It's a stage 1 actually. Tall rat sack.
Camaro
71 GS Stage 1. Now this is a 72, I believe. Going against the 70 Camaro Z28.
Looks like the Buick in the right lane is 14. 796 miles per hour. Camaro.
Again, thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. Please make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future drag race videos. And of course, I'll see you at the next one.